Thank you for that amazing introduction. I hope I can live up to it. So with a show of hands, who here really, really loves mushrooms? Like really, really love it. Like you eat it 2-3 times a week. Okay, significantly less. All right, so the rest of you were lying to me just now. My name is Zheng. I'm the co-founder of Leep Foods. What next for how we feed ourselves in the 21st century is one of the most pressing, exciting, and vital questions one can ask in 2019. The great poet and civil rights activist Maya Angelou once said, "I have great respect for the past because without it, you don't know where you're going." So let's start from the top. Imagine it's 315,000 BC, Paleolithic age, before the invention of clothes. All right, we are the first Homo sapiens on the grasslands of what is now Morocco. All right, we spot a dead carcass, probably left over from a large carnivore's hunt. All right, so we gather around, we make some fire, it's dinner time. All right, and this continued for another 306,000 years before the advent of agriculture. We kept scavenging, we kept eating, and we grew to love it. Fast forward now, 2016. Can anyone here guess which country ate the most amount of meat in 2016? Any guesses?
Brazil?
United States.
Can we say that louder, please?
United States.
Bingo. Got some smart people in the crowd, right? 97 kilograms of meat per American. Let's put that in perspective. The Empire State Building weighs 330 million kilograms. Right, so what that means is the population of just Western New York, Finger Lakes, and Syracuse consumed an entire Empire State Building's worth of meat 3 years ago. 100x that is how much America ate in 2016. That is an astronomical amount of animal protein. The 7 billion people alive today are alive in large part because of the advent of industrial agriculture, which began in the mid-19th century, which exponentially improved the efficiency of producing edible plant matter. However, 2/3 of that plant matter today still gets consumed by livestock, which then gets eaten by humans. In 2006, the FAO estimated that 13 to 18% of this planet's greenhouse gas emissions come from livestock. 65% of that from cattle. And that's exactly what you're thinking about. It's farts, it's burps, it's all of that. To make matters worse, the high rates of deforestation require to make more arable land to continue feeding highly inefficient converters of feed to mass. On top of that, expectations and demand for meat products are expected to double by 2050. Double. There's one more, make matters worse, right? The consumption rate of animal products, the current Western heavy diet, studies have shown, are linked to higher risks of heart disease, cancer, and other chronic diseases. Not only is it bad for our planet, it's bad for our longevity. Ultimately, projections show that if we continue the adoption of Western heavy meat diets around the world as more developing nations shift towards a more varied diet and move away from malnourishment, and we continue to consume meat as it is inefficiently produced today, not only are we creating more health burdens, we are going to put our only planet beyond its environmental limits. That is an objectively scary future, folks. That is a future we should all work hard to avoid. That's what I'm here to talk about. So what next? Where do we go from here? We say, screw it, throw up our hands, meat is delicious, let's just eat ourselves into oblivion. From the last, I think we know the better alternative. Where do we do what our ancestors did? and we adapt. For many modern Homo sapiens, this craving, this deeply rooted behavior of eating meat is deeply ingrained because it's been passed down through countless generations and because animal protein is a great source of vital fats and protein. Kept us alive, we grew to love it. The question is, can we mimic the experience of meat without the actual animals? And to do it over and over again, day after day, for billions of mouths. That is the industry Leep Foods is in. This can be done in two methods. Number one, mimic the experience of eating meat without the actual animals, using fungal and plant proteins. Number two, cell culture, using molecular biology techniques to mimic the conditions of animal protein in large bioreactors. The latter is still in basic research, is further away than some companies will admit. So today we're going to focus on the first. The former is not a new concept. East Asian and Southeast Asian cuisine have for centuries relied on processed soy, tofu. I just realized I haven't been clicking, so yeah. Tofu, tempeh. Take processed soy, it's delicious. Mushrooms, you cook it down with soy sauce, it's healthy, it's delicious, right? Tofu and tempeh made its way over to really big market, if you exclude Asian Americans, to the United States really in the late 60s. Right? And you can thank Portland, the Portland vegan movement for this. Right? I see someone over here, I think you're a vegan. Yeah. So well, we call this the wave one of veganism, right? And you have brands that were birthed like Tofurkey, and their appeal was an ethical appeal to vegans, right? Don't eat animals for a moral argument. But what they didn't do is they didn't mimic the experience. And because of this, they made a small indent, very small, almost negligible indent, convincing carnivores. Carnivores that want that juiciness, they want that texture. That texture is super important. But what's important to note, the counterculture had begun. Jump forward, 2008, 2018. There was a rise in the number of documentaries, public figures, speaking out on how broken our food system was. And spotting a global problem worth solving, and an incumbent group of companies that weren't mass market yet, the entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley and California spotted an opportunity. And so wave two began. Companies like Impossible Foods, funded by good old Bill Gates, Beyond Meat, set out to mimic the experience of meat to a point where you would eat it over its animal equivalent. They do so by taking plant proteins, mixing it together with flavor and aroma compounds, then process it down so that the molecules form like they would in ground meat. And their rapidly rising revenue is proving that. They have cracked the code. So now that a mass market approach to meat alternatives has truly been identified, what next? We think the market will be satisfied with two companies. At Leep Foods, we don't think so. A couple of reasons. Last year, the US demand for just burgers was 50 billion. Burgers. Not all ground meat, not chicken nuggets, not bacon, just burgers. Furthermore, despite how great their footprint is and how eerily similar to the actual animal equivalent they are, both these companies are actively addressing the health burden of over-consuming red meat. The message from science to consumers through national guidelines is clear. Your saturated fat consumption, we should keep it low. Replace it with unsaturated fats and unrefined carbohydrates. For any of you interested, we can deep dive later, but that's really it's important. Unrefined. And these wave two companies have optimized for flavor and texture. They haven't done it in the health department. So how would we go about crafting an empirically healthier full burger? A rational place to start would be fiber. The research around fiber is clear. Eating more fiber means lower risk of mortality across the board. Heart disease, obesity, cancer, all forms of it. Now imagine if we incorporated a greater variety of burgers, of fibers into burgers, and alongside these fibers were ergothioneine, which is an important antioxidant responsible for cellular defense in processing out of cellular waste products, a compound that most people don't eat enough of because it's not commonly found in plants and meat. Now, imagine if that ergo was present with a lot of other micronutrients that aren't commonly found in animal products and the wave 2. And you were to do it with a flavor texture experience that is unrivaled. When we think truffles, next time you guys go to a really nice restaurant that has truffles on the menu, go to their chef and say, "Chef, meal was amazing. Do you think truffles are a great meat alternative?" And I promise you, 100% of them will laugh you out the door. Why is that? Because the fungal kingdom, its true potential, is even greater than meats. That's right, folks. Truffles, their genetic code allow them to produce flavor compounds that cattle, that chicken, that delicious bacon can't even produce. That is the untapped potential of mushrooms. At Leep Foods, we set out, our mission is to make the most remarkable mushrooms available in familiar forms to everyday people. Kurotake on the left is a revered New York strain of Japanese mushroom called maitake. On the left is our workhorse mushroom called blue oysters. Both of these guys have meatiest texture you can imagine and have 4 to 5 times the amount of ergo compared to normal button mushrooms. When you look at the mushroom industry, as it is today, most of the buttons and portobellos that we're so used to, that ick factor, the reason not 90% of you raised your hand, but 25%, is because of the way these mushrooms are grown. You take composted chicken manure, horse manure, compost it, then you process it in a fairly labor-intensive method, most of it done in Kennesaw, Pennsylvania, into buttons and portobellos. Takeaway here is subpar, medium. No matter how great your genetics are, will yield subpar products. So how do we go about changing this modality? At Leep Foods, we recognize that there are bottlenecks keeping the wood-degrading shiitakes and oysters away from mass market, the labor intensity. Why has no one designed a 21st century fungal factory that could make the price point and quality of these amazing life-enhancing mushrooms available to the mass market? Because farmers are farmers, and as engineers that have fallen in love with the fungal factory, the fungal industry spoke to us. So what we have done is we have devised a method called RAMP, which stands for Rapidly Accelerated Mushroom Production, which will allow us to, in order of magnitude, improve the efficiency of producing amazing mushrooms. Our factory is literally a 5-minute walk across the street. Design is modular. We can take it wherever we want, wherever it economically makes sense. Be up and running within a month, producing mushrooms within another month. Our hope is one day, very soon, that more people in this room will think of mushrooms not as an icky sub-dish, but as an important accelerator to a healthier, beautiful, healthier, all that, right? This is not greenwashing. This is the future of mushrooms. This is the future of healthy meat alternatives. Thank you.